So we wind down these questions with one last piece of advice. Mark, it's often easy once you graduate to your blinders on and take the typical paper engineering route that leads you from PE to shift supervisor to machine superintendent. Your experience differs quite a bit from that, as you took more of an education research related route. So I'm curious, what is your word of advice to individuals looking to take a non-traditional path in the paper industry like you did?
So, mine's pretty storied. Bunch of R&D, academia, worked in, Weyerhaeuser Mill for a little bit. Learned a bunch about manufacturing, which is critical. But have the wherewithal, have the guts to pick up and move on. I left Weyerhaeuser to run U.S. operations for a company back east, which is where I'm from originally. So I packed my two dogs, my life up and drove, just shy of 3,000 miles to start something anew. And yeah, I'm single, no kids. I had two dogs, and it was all good. But you have to have the guts again to be able to look at something and move on. Research is a great opportunity. If you're looking to, in the long run, if you have a goal or whatever. I never had the goal to start my own company. That was never, my 5-year plan when I got out of college. So, I had things like hike the Appalachian Trail was one of my goals for my 5-year plan. But in R&D, you think, you're forced to think, and you have to come up with something different to start your own company, really. Have guts. And belief, and you have to find people to work with you, behind you. If you're lucky, you hit the lottery and you can buy somebody's company and go from there. But starting a company on a wing and a prayer, you have to have belief, you have to have guts. I have an individual that works for me. I'm going to give him a shout out, Tyler Campbell. Tyler was a student of mine. We were friends when he was a student. He's now director of engineering for us. He took a leap of faith. He knew what I was doing, and he believed in it. And he was actually the first employee of SFT. He was working for SFT while I was still teaching at the U. The other thing I really want to mention, and it's probably best in this segment, to do this as you're looking to move on and start up, well, no matter how small or large your company is that you want to have, but especially for the young professionals, network. I had a call from a woman who had met years before, that was a student at Western, and she was just finishing up her PhD, and we had stayed in loose touch. She impressed me early on, and she was just finishing up, and she was looking for positions, and I wasn't looking to hire anyone at that point in time. And she reached out and said, Mark, I've always been impressed with what you guys are doing. I'm interested. And we started talking, and, she got an offer by a major corporate entity. And she was working with them and doing well. And she's somebody I could see moving on to do something bigger and better and beyond in the long run. I've always stayed in touch with a lot of young professionals, students that I've met at TAPI conferences. And I was always one to take a group of University of Washington students out for beers, whoever was showing up for a conference. And this goes back to Tyler met somebody at a conference recently, and he was telling them who he was working for. They just met, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've had beers with your boss." And it's I'm known in the office of everywhere I go. I know somebody, and it's sort of a joke, but it's sort of true a lot of times, and not just outside, not just the industry. But don't be afraid. A lot of young professionals will migrate to who they know, and don't. You used the expression earlier, being uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to wander up at a bar, sit next to somebody, and strike up a conversation with somebody. I've had some very interesting meetings, some that have actually led to going, really, you're doing this and we're doing this, and next thing you know, it's something happens, or years later, I get an email or a call going, "Hey, Mark, this is so and so. We met way back when, and I just happened to see on LinkedIn or whatever that you're doing this." He's there. I'm now working with a packaging company, and we're looking to get away and become more sustainable. And this is somebody that I hadn't seen or heard from in 10 years probably. But get out there, know them, and keep track of them.
Well, once again, Mark, the TAPI YP division, I would like to extend our thanks to you for all the time you've given us this past few months, just so we can learn a little bit more about you. So for all you YPs out there right now, I would also like to take this time to encourage you to look at becoming a member to TAPI and joining the YP division, all at a very healthy discount, I might add. We thank you again for listening to these videos, and we hope to see you at one of our events sometime very soon.